Hey everyone, Jeff here with another Essentials video. I have something very special for you today. Our special guest, among the other cats. Why do cats always put their butt in your face? This is my mom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Miller, and this is Rita, one of our cats.
Also called Napoleon.
She wants to be a movie star.
Yeah. So, something that's go away. Yeah, we have something special today. We have a Vietnam vet with us, and I was talking with Mom the other day having coffee, and things just were coming out of her, and I thought, boy, it would be so special if I could share this with the church, because it was just so applicable to today. So our topic for today is dealing with hardship and how hardship prepares us for other hardship. And go find a mouse or something.
Speaking of hardship, that's an animal that's never known a hardship.
No, she hasn't. So, we're going to talk about Mom's experiences. She's going to share some things with us that were hard parts of her life, and she's agreed to do this, and we hope it's encouraging to you. So we'll just start with my mom was a nurse for 40 years. There she is.
I still am a nurse. I'm just retired.
Yes, the truth.
Yes.
Once a nurse, always a nurse. And so you were telling me about how you decided to be a nurse when you were 5. So tell us about how you decided to be a nurse.
Yeah, it's kind of a silly story. Most people say things like, "Oh, I decided I wanted to help people," or something like that. But it wasn't like that with me. My parents took me to the emergency room when I was 5 years old because I was covered in mosquito bites that were all blistered. And that was the first time I was in a hospital, and I saw these nurses walking around with white uniforms and white caps and white stockings and white shoes, and I thought it looked so glamorous. And it really wasn't glamorous at all. But at that moment, I decided I wanted to be one of those women in white. And that is the moment I decided to become a nurse. And I never, ever changed my mind.
And it stuck.
It stuck. I went to nursing school. I became a registered nurse, and it really was never as glamorous as I thought it was. And that's my story.
And most of your life, you were an OB nurse.
Yes, I worked for many years in labor and delivery for most of my working years, which was 41 years total.
And I remember once you told me this, it always stuck with me. You said you've seen thousands of babies born.
Yes.
And you said every time it's a miracle.
Yes. It's always a different story. Most of the time, labor and delivery is a very happy place, and it was a good place to work.
So your nursing career started, however, in you decided to join the Army.
I did.
And tell us why you decided to join
I was
the
an Army nurse in the late 1960s. And the way this whole came about is I was a senior in nursing school, just entering my senior year. And I didn't have much money. Excuse me. My mother gave me...
Do you have a squirt gun?
No. My mother gave me $5 a week for spending money, which is really about all you needed back in the 60s, because everything was cheap, and I didn't need much. So I had $5 a week. That's $20 a month. And a recruiter came to my nursing school to talk to us about joining the Army when we graduated, and offered anybody who would join $100 a month for the rest of our senior year. And then you had to go on active duty after you graduated and got your license. And $100 a month sounded like I would be very wealthy, so I decided to do it. And from my nursing school, there were 6 of us that joined the Army out of 54 women.
Wow.
And that is how I decided to become an Army nurse. Besides, I just wanted to get away from Buffalo. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and I just felt like I wanted to wander around and not stay there forever. Besides, it's very cold.
Yeah, we were just there actually a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it was warm, but it's not warm anymore. So that takes us to the next part of your story. As it concerns us, which is that you went to Vietnam.
I did.
And you worked on a MASH unit at age 21?
21.
For a year.
Yeah. I graduated from nursing school in 1969 and joined the Army as soon as I got my license. And that was right in the middle of the Vietnam War, and I volunteered to go. But most of the nurses had to go somewhere overseas. The ones that didn't go to Vietnam went to Korea or somewhere in Europe or the Okinawa or someplace. So I volunteered for Vietnam, and I went there.
You volunteered? I didn't know that part.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But I would have had to go somewhere anyway.
I come from good stock.
Yeah. I probably, the ones who didn't volunteer, most of those went to Korea.
Okay.
You know, so I left for Vietnam in April. And I was there for 1 year, from April to April.
So what you said the other day that really struck me, and why I felt like this would be nice it would be powerful to share in a good thing. You said that the hardship you experienced there, you said something along the lines of that you're reading and seeing a lot of news right now about people are complaining about this or that because of this pandemic. But you said it's silly to you because when you've been through true hardship, you realize that maybe this isn't as much as we're thinking, at least, and not that we're not discounting that people are dying and awful things are happening. But for most of us, the inconvenience is quite small. So, I mean, just sharing what you feel like sharing a little bit about that word hardship and what it means to you in Vietnam, and obviously that was a very difficult thing for you.
Yeah. Well, I came from a good home and I had a happy childhood. And so here I am in Buffalo, New York, leaving for the first time. I'd never been on an airplane before. I've never been out of New York State except to go to Canada. Well, we get to Vietnam, and we're put in a trailer. There was another nurse and myself. They had trailers for us. That was overnight, and the next morning we were going to get transferred to our units, our hospitals. Well, there was no water. And here I am for the first time in my life. I don't think I ever told you this, without water.
Wow.
The only thing we had that was liquid was Royal Crown Cola. So that night I had to brush my teeth with Royal Crown Cola. And that was the beginning of my realizing that my little world was not going to be the same for 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so the next day we were transferred to the hospital where we were going to work. There were 12 women, nurses, and I worked in one of those blow-up MASH units like you see on TV. It was a lot of hard work, and really we worked 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. We didn't have any days off. Once in the year I got a vacation and went to Tokyo for the week. But other than that, it was just working and sleeping, and it was very rough. And it was like 100 degrees, and we didn't have any air conditioning, and we had no hot water. We did have water that came every day on a big truck to fill up our tank for showers. But when that water ran out, there wouldn't be any water till the next day. So it was a lot to get used to. And the working environment was an eye-opener because I was taking care of young men my same age with their bodies blown apart and dying, and, you know, that's it. But I certainly learned a lot.
Yeah, and you volunteered for that, not knowing probably what was going to happen, but you obviously got through it. And
I did.
And thank the Lord, you know, you didn't get hurt. And then I appeared at some point after that.
Yeah. A few years later, my children started appearing.
And then I hatched. Yeah.
The hatchling, the eggs hatched.
That's good. So, yeah, I mean, probably very different from the movie MASH. Maybe what
somewhat,
people
yeah.
Think of is, you know, that idyllic, not idyllic, but
yeah.
You know, that more TV version. But yeah, and I would say I remember growing up, just my father taught anesthesia and nursing, so I remember sometimes I'd be in the attic, and he used to have those little spinning disc things where it would show a slide, and then it would spin, and it would show the next one. They were always like an amber color.
Yeah.
And he used those in his training to show videos, and I remember as a little boy, I would go in the attic, and I would take those they were tiny little things. and I would take them and I'd stick them up in the window in the sky so I could see the pictures. And I just vividly remember just pictures of bodies,
Yeah.
Blown apart and surgery on bodies, and they were using that for the teaching. So that gave me just a small idea of what you and Dad
Yeah.
experienced.
But it's all good. I'm glad I went and had that experience.
So, transitioning kind of to then another story you were just telling me about, and I think this goes into the idea of like what really is hardship. Tell me about the coal trick. This is before Nam, when you were a little girl in Buffalo, and you were telling me a story
The coal
about
for the furnace?
the furnace.
Oh,
the coal,
my
the
goodness.
furnace coal.
Yeah, I was telling Jeff the other day a story about my life when I was about 5 or 6 years old, as I recall. And I have these vivid memories of coal. Back then we didn't have any central air or anything, and it was all just furnaces in your basement, and you use coal in the furnace to make heat for your home. So about once a month, this coal truck would come to our neighborhood and dump a huge pile of coal out in the street in front of each home.
This is in the 50s.
Yes.
Okay.
In the early 50s, I would say. And each house would have a big pile of coal out in the street. And the man, because men did that then, and the women stayed in the house and cooked meals and washed clothes, I guess. But the men would come out with wheelbarrows. I remember my father coming outside with a wheelbarrow and a shovel and having to shovel the coal into the wheelbarrow and then take it down into the basement of our house and then come back and get another load of coal and take it back into the basement of our house. And it took the men hours to do this. Just hours. It would take men the whole day. And, it was never considered a hardship because that's just the way life was then and everybody did it. But can you imagine now having to do something like that instead of just turning on your little button for the air conditioner or the heat?
You have a vivid memory of your dad, probably
I do.
very dirty.
Yes.
And didn't you say there were steps, so he had to get a wheelbarrow?
He had to take the
full of coal
wheelbarrow
down
into the back door of our house and down the stairs into the basement. So he's taking a wheelbarrow full of coal up and down the stairs.
Keep talking. I'm going to get a picture of your dad.
Okay. And get that one on top of over there by the back door
Okay.
where he's very young and handsome looking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, he's always handsome.
Yeah. My father's name was Joseph Licata. His parents were immigrants from Sicily. And he was a very good-looking hunk of a guy. There's Joe, my dad. Put him up close. I love my dad. He's just an awesome man. The Italian stallion. Anyway, yeah, I somehow have vivid memories of that. And, some things you remember from your childhood and some things you don't.
In laundry, you said, in the same
Oh, my
basement,
goodness,
done
yes.
by hand.
We lived in a Italian neighborhood, and our house had 4 apartments in it. So my little Italian grandmother lived upstairs, we lived downstairs, and other relatives lived in the other 2 apartments. And my grandmother would be down in the basement where the coal was, washing clothes on a board, one of those washboards, and you just scrub clothes. Then she'd have to hang them up to dry, and it would take 4 or 5 days for clothes to dry because it was Buffalo, New York, and it would be like 5 degrees in the winter, and it would take forever for the clothes to dry.
And when they dried, they were
stiff.
They were stiff, and they were cold, right?
They were
the
cold
basement
and
wasn't
stiff.
heated.
No, it wasn't heated at all.
So
No, the
cold,
basement was
stiff
cold.
clothes.
Yeah. And now, you put your clothes in the dryer for 40 minutes and they're done instead of waiting 5 days for them to dry and then having to wear stiff clothes. Just funny little things that nobody thinks about anymore.
Wow. Yeah, so,
So everybody be glad you have a washing machine and a dryer. And if you don't have one in your house, you can go to a laundromat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole idea is perspective of just talking to anyone that's
I
been
see
through.
Rita's back.
She's back. Her name's Napoleon.
Her name is Rita. So, yeah, take her down.
So, kind of the thing that inspired this, and I sit around with my mom every Saturday for a long time. We have what we call Coffee with Ann, which is I come over. Sometimes I'll bring a kid or two, and we have coffee and talk about life, and things like this come up. And my mom is an amazing woman, and she's just one of my happiest things of my life is being part of your life every day.
Well, thank you.
Often. So.
And you're one of the things I'm thankful for. When you want to consider all the things to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Especially now, since we're confined to our homes for the most part.
Yeah, Mom's like one of the only people I see, and I guess I'm your only visitor right now.
Yes.
Of course, Eric, my brother Eric lives here, but you've got him and your cats, but.
And my greyhound.
Yeah.
My greyhound
as well. Yes.
Grace Kelly is her name. Grace Kelly. Anybody who knows who Grace Kelly is.
The black bandit is what I call her because she steals things and she's black. But yeah, so it was in the context of one of our talks that my mom just said, and I'll kind of quote you again. This thing I said at the beginning. You said all these people are complaining, and when you've had hardship, true hardship, it really gives you a new perspective on. How good things are and how bad they aren't, kind of thing. So just kind of in closing, would you have any words? And we sort of rehearsed this, and I said, Mom, I want you to say something to everyone who's not 74, which is most of the listeners here.
Yeah.
That you have something, you have an authority to say things because you've been through these things in your life. You've lived well, and you've become strong through some very difficult things.
Yes.
And we've only talked about a few of them today. But what would you say to a younger generation? What would you say to the noise of the complaining and that whole thing that we hear every day as we continue into this pandemic and this difficult time? What would some words be to maybe encourage and challenge?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I've had a good life. I really don't have much to complain about. And nobody wants to hear other people complain. So that being said, just be thankful for everything you have. And with people unhappy because they have to stay home from their jobs, or you can't go to the mall, or you can't go out to eat at a restaurant or whatever, just be thankful for everything you have. And, get yourself a little notebook. I don't think I've told you this. Get yourself a notebook and every day write down one thing that you're thankful for. And it doesn't have to be anything heavy, just any little thing, like having a cat that loves you, the love of a pet, or the sound of the birds outside chirping, or just any little thing. So write down one thing each day that you're thankful for, but it can't be the same thing every day. It has to be a different thing. So if you have to think of a different thing every day, you'll look around you and find tons of things to be thankful for. Thanks for listening to me.
Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
My mom. Love you.
Love you too, babe.
This has been great. I hope you've been encouraged and enjoyed this, and we'll be back with another episode of our Essentials video series, and sometime soon. Hope you've enjoyed.
Bye.
Bye.